afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our talk time here. I'm Kathleen Titus, the race director for the Philadelphia Marathon Weekend, and I am with Lauren Fleshman and Jarrett Ward today. So welcome, everyone. This is our
Wow.
fall version of webinars here where we get to talk about everything under the sun with training. As we know, many people are full gear for the marathon, for the ACR Philadelphia Marathon, which is sold out this year at a record number. We had over 17,000 people register for the race. We have a wait list going that we're going to hope to start clearing next week. For the Dietz and Watson Philadelphia Half Marathon, which both of these folks I do believe are running in. That's happening. It's sold out as well. 15,000 runners, a little bit over that we have for this year. And then the 8K, Rothman Orthopedic 8K. I know, Jarrett, you run that with Paul. Well, hopefully we'll see Paul on that again. That is also just about sold out, 95%. So if you're still thinking about running the 8K, don't waste any time. It's only a matter of days until that sells out. And again, we will be completely sold out for the race weekend, which takes place on November 21st, which is a Friday with our expo opening at 12 noon, goes until 9 o'clock. You'll get a chance to see a lot of speakers, vendors. Saturday, expo's open from 9 to 5. We kick off the half marathon at 7 a.m. We have the Rothman Orthopedic 8K at 11 a.m. And then on Sunday, 7 a.m. is the AACR Philadelphia Full Marathon. And then 10 a.m. is our kids run. So no more children's kids run. So a lot of events happening here. But now that I got housekeeping out of the way, what have you two been up to? Jarrett, I think you're in a new destination and you're not wearing a tuxedo this time.
That's it. We are home. We're back in the USA. We love it here. And yeah, life's good.
And Lauren, you just returned from what looked like an amazing retreat.
Yeah, I led a retreat of women out in Chamonix, France for a week and cruised in some new trails in the Alps and just feel really full of nature and super inspired.
Awesome. So what do you guys have? So this is going to be a little bit of a change up. Normally I'm moderating, asking all these questions, but Lauren, the last time that you and I had a webinar together that Jarrett kind of was supposed to be a part of, but came just a little late for an amazing reason, because you did take your wife to the most wonderful dinner. You were asking me some questions, and I thought maybe I'd flip it around this time. Instead of me always drilling you all, what should everybody expect? I'm going to make sure that you all can throw some questions at me from a race director's perspective of what you might wish to know from the race, or what runners should know from the runner's perspective, while I still throw out things to you about what should people be, planning, how are things going. We're going to answer some Q&A questions because obviously we have people here watching live with us today. But yeah, we're going to change up the little mixture there and have a little bit of RD conversation instead of just KT talking.
Love it. Well, I have a question. Is anything different about the course this year from last year?
I will say from the course perspective, no. And I literally just came from a meeting right before this webinar with our streets and looking at street closures and everything. And it's exactly the same. And it's actually a little bit better. The 8K course remains the same, no changes. The half marathon, no problem. The marathon, we were concerned right around that 3 mile mark down along the waterfront, Columbus Boulevard, that there was a large construction project going on there where they're trying to make a big park that goes over the Superhighway 95. But that has not, it's actually gotten better in our favor. So right now, all courses are going to remain the same. And we're just going to add a little bit more in the cheer zone area, a little bit more entertainment. So, if anybody's looking to come out from the charity component or just from a cheer zone, come there. But the course itself will all remain the same. And Noon will still remain as the hydration partner out there that you can take besides water.
When you say like the more music or more, what does that look like normally? Like, or what can people expect? What should they be sure not to miss in the cheer zone excitement part?
I would say this: the first, as both of you know, running the half marathon, the first 11 miles just about are in the historic area in downtown Philadelphia, which is rare that you get to run the streets of a city the size of Philadelphia throughout, and you're not put on an industrial park or out on a superhighway or anything else. You're really running the streets, and you both can attest to that. The cheer zones were one of those things that we were trying to monitor. Where do we need to have music? Where do we need to have engagement? And really looking at the back half of the course. As you get into Fairmount Park, which is 9 times bigger than Central Park in New York. It's pretty large and vast. So reevaluating where should spectators and where should people be. The first half of the course, it's great. You can see your loved one starting the marathon, starting the half marathon, and then you can easily scoot over to the 6-mile mark for both of them, see them again. And then from there, you either move towards the finish line for the half, or you're looking to go out west a little bit to catch your loved one at mile 15, and then right again around mile 24. So it's those back miles of the marathon from 13 to probably 18 that you're kind of looking like, where do we need to put cheer zones? So we're always looking for ways, because we know downtown, it's loud, it gets crazy. Up in Manayunk, where the turnaround is for the marathon between 18 and 21, really busy. But that last stretch coming back, ironically, 4 years ago when we changed the course and we moved it to Girard Avenue, it loops. There's a spot right around mile 14 where spectators get to see loved ones twice. Before, that was never there. We found that pulled the cheer zone out almost 2 miles from the finish line. So it used to be a really quiet mile 22, 23, 24 is now super loud and bumping. But we're now like, okay, what do we have around mile 11? What do we have around mile 12, 13? Because now we know where we're getting the vibe and the energy. So we're, talking to a lot of our run clubs, trying to see how do we get run clubs involved, because we know that they're up and coming. How do we get different cheer zones from charities perspective? How do we want to engage, our partners, especially in 2026? What does that look like for us? But even this year, we're just taking a look and saying, okay, we had music here, here, and here. How do we get more music out there? How do we get, more engagement? Yeah. Live bands, if they want to play for us, contact us. DJs, if they want to play for us, contact us. So we're taking a look at that part.
It's a good example of like what I've seen, and I know Jared has seen in working with you. And this event is like, this is just a small example of a larger theme of really caring about the experience that people are having out there. It's like every detail that you are an endurance athlete. You know what those miles can feel like when you're lonely and worn down and tired, and that's something that you care about or putting energy into. And obviously that energy that's how you're approaching so much of this event and weekend.
Totally.
I run most of this course many times over.
Well, and just the engagement of the community too, looking at the run clubs and the ways that you can tie people in that are already committed and tied to the city, just seeds the running culture throughout the city and ties it all together. That's awesome. What a place.
That's something we try to do, is bring it all together. We couldn't do what we do without the volunteers, without the community. But now, as the community is starting to evolve, the younger runners, the youth, how do we get the youth of today to be our long distance runners of tomorrow? You all know that's a big passion of mine, but we're selling an experience at the end of the day. And it's a hard experience for some, but at the end, it's elation that you feel. But we all, I was talking to somebody who's a pro back of the packer, and many of the people on here will know LaToya. She is always at 7 hours, 8. She's gone and done ultras, but we call her the pro back of the packer, and really talking to her about, even though you're a slower runner, you still feel the same, you still hurt the same, but how is it to prepare to be out on that course for 7 hours versus 2 or 3 or 4 hours? And kind of that's like been a focal point now of really dialing in for all the runners, so that everybody says, I can do this, I can see it, but also, how do I complete it successfully? And it's much different for a 2-hour runner to complete it successfully than it is a 7-hour runner to complete it. So I am looking at that, both dynamics, and saying, okay, what works here? I have to, I'm constantly going down the line saying, well, how does it shift and change for you as a 4-hour? How does it shift and change for you as a 7-hour finisher?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a question for you before you hit me with another one. Someone wants to know, how to survive our hills on the back end. I'm slow and steady, but you all know that right around mile 9 and 11, there's that climb that comes out of the university that takes up what's called Black Rock Road, for those who don't know the course. But if you do take a look at it, there's a hill there, slight hill. How would you tell people to save themselves, not only for the marathon, to have the legs, knowing that you're going to have a slight incline? Again, it's a net zero. So everybody says, how is it net zero? You have hills. It doesn't mean it's flat. It just means what goes up comes down at the end of the day, and trying to explain that. But give a little bit of strategy from both your all's perspective. You run the half, the full's a little bit more. You've done full distances for surviving, hills later in the race.
Wow. Well, I think it's quite different for the marathon and the half marathon. So I would say let's talk about, two ways of doing this. When I think of running a half marathon, I think of being able to push a little bit up the hill, knowing that my body will recover from that while I get going down the hill on the other side. And from a performance standpoint, I want to push a little up the hill, and then I want to push a little right at the start of the downhill on the other side just to get that rhythm back, to get that faster pace back and take advantage of the downhill. And then my body, aerobically will kind of come back out to center as we continue down that hill, and I get things back under control. In a marathon, I think we have to be a little bit more careful about switching energy systems. If you push up a hill too hard and you go into oxygen debt, it's not that the race is over and you can't recover from it, but it's just that we're shifting from maybe a more balanced burn of fats and carbohydrates and um, a lower aerobic burn to like maybe an anaerobic high carb burn. And that's dangerous to have too early in a marathon if we're blowing through too many carbs. So I think in the marathon, I think more of equal effort. And so as I'm going up a hill, it's okay to slow down a little bit, focus on effort as opposed to pace. And if you go a little bit too fast, then make sure you recover on that downhill and make sure you stay on top of your fueling. But I approach those different whether you're in the half or whether you're in the full.
I would agree. That's great advice. And ever since high school, my coach told me that the uphill ends after you've crested the top and you've gone for about 10, 15 seconds over the other side. And I think that's not just when you're trying to run a personal best time. I think it really is a better way to think about it mentally, because if you've put in that work on the hill, it's tempting to want to just be like, as soon as you get to the top. But you've put in all this work on the hill, and the downhill will just start doing the work for you. So you really deserve to give yourself that gift of like carry the effort all the way through so that you don't kind of like lose the wind in your sails at the top. I think that that's like a mistake a lot of people make. They look proud of themselves. They made the hill and then they kind of like, "Ugh," and like there's this flattening out.
Mhm.
And now you have to build momentum again, instead of it just kind of taking care of itself if you take yourself up over for about 10 seconds.
Yeah, great perspective on that. So I have a
Yeah.
couple things
And
that a bunch of questions are just coming in because everybody's like, "What's going to happen, Bibs?" I'm going to answer a couple questions here before I go back into this. Everybody will know their corral and their bib once bibs are assigned, probably beginning of like October, November. So when you get your bib, you're going to know when your corral, what corral you're in. There is no changing of corrals. That's based on the time that you put on in there. So if you do have a question on that, you can always reach out to us. The pace is a 16-minute mile pace. We do require everybody to have a 16-minute mile pace, which is right around that 7 hour. It's at that 7 hour cutoff time. For the full marathon, it's the 16 hour, the same 16 minutes for the half and for the 8K on those days as well. So make sure that you're striving to have that. If not, we do have swag vehicles. Yes, SAG vehicles that will come and sweep you up, or you'll just be asked to move over to the sidewalk again to make sure that everyone is safe. The wait list. The wait list is going to be as quick as people drop off, or as quick as people will come on. And what I'll say about a wait list is this is probably the time when people realize they're undertrained or they're injured and they're not going to be able to do the distance. So the biggest number of deferrals that we see probably won't happen until the closer to October is really that sweet spot when we start to see that. So if you are on the wait list, it is first come, first serve. Those that were on first will be cleared first. So if you did this early on, a good chance you'll probably be moved off. If not, we will notify everybody on here that it is closed. And again, charity partners, you can get a charity bib entry through the charity program. So if you absolutely are like, I want to be an affiliate, I want to run, join one of the charity programs. The entry point to get in isn't really that much, but it is just an absolutely exceptional way to give back to the community for a cause, for a loved one. So if you're looking to get in, let us know, hey, I'm dropping off of the wait list. I'm going to go join a charity program. They do have some spots available for the marathon and for the half marathon. So get your guaranteed entry that way. All right, that's enough on my housekeeping notes again. Go ahead. What's your next question for me?
let's see. I think, what do you think is something that um, something that is invisible behind the scenes that you love about Philly Marathon weekend that you think a lot of people miss, that you wish they knew about the event?
I would say that the 4,000 volunteers, we have more volunteers this year than we've ever had. The behind the scenes of getting 4,000 people who are strangers to what we do, educated and ready to go. And it doesn't look like they've skipped a beat. And a lot of them look like they're repeats and they've been doing this forever. The operations teams for our event is small. Yes, it's a city event, but the internal team is really small. So it takes a lot of partnerships and communication to execute the events the way that we do. That most people would just take for granted and say, oh, they're a city. This must be a large event. They don't really know, but it's not. It's a really small team. And it's the Fund for Philadelphia. So it's a nonprofit, the race. And a lot of people don't know that. They just think it's for profit, it's for the city, but it's a nonprofit that does go back into giving grants to inner city programming that I'm super proud of. And the more, runners that we can get means I can help more people, or we can help more people within our community and within the city of Philadelphia, which is something I absolutely love. So I want more runners to come in so that we can do more. As grant funding is cut, this is a way that we know we can help support with some resources to keep things moving.
And can you, I'm really curious, like what does that look like in the community? Like like it provides sports programs, or like how does it exactly feed back in?
It depends on what the fund is looking at, different programs. So they have different ones. Last year, we did a lot with children's youth programming and going back
Mhm.
in to schools and providing some different resources. Sometimes it goes into arts and culture programming. So you
Cool.
kind of take the city and they look at different infrastructure, and then the fund sets its goals of what areas do we want to support. And it could be areas that are either new, ramping up, or ones that have been there but are now underfunded and they want to keep funding sustainable. So again, you're looking at all the different resources that we have as a city for community and say, okay, where can we go and what mission are we behind? And every year that could change. We hope that it stays within the youth. That is a big spot for me, is really how do
Mhm.
we keep elevating the youth, which is why our Nemours Children's Health Run is so important, and going back into the schools and how do we get into the schools to educate these kids? How do we bring athletes like yourselves back into the schools? We did that back in 2017, 18, and 19 before COVID to help give back. But the fund is just looking at the different areas of opportunity that they feel the community could use the most resources. And again, it just varies from year to year.
I think runners on the whole are such thoughtful, community-minded people, so
Mhm.
it's such a good fit to have an event like this be a place that you can go and have an experience and get something out of it for yourself and feel really good that your entry fees and the whole event is serving this larger purpose of giving back to a community. You're not just coming in and extracting from the place when you come to Philly for the weekend, you're giving back.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that we are a 501c3, that the Philadelphia City Fund for Philadelphia is, it's a non-for-profit. I think right away everybody said, here's, oh, Philly Marathon, it's the city, it's this, it's that. We're our own little organization, driven by the city itself. And our executive director is part of the managing director's office. But again, it's its own operating budget. It has its own internal team, but it doesn't really have a dedicated, it's pieced together by different special events department comes into it. And then you do end up working closely with police and fire and everyone, but it's the passion for the city and putting on these large events that all these different entities within the city do for, a short period, get to all come together and unite. Parks and Recreation is a big part of our team race weekend. So it's kind
Mhm.
of neat where a lot of times these events might not interact commingling like that, but during an event like ours, you kind of bring all the resources of the city together as like one big powerhouse. And it's pretty exciting to see. But a lot of people would, from the optics side, would just think, oh, that's normal. You produce an event, they have access to this, 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 and this. But really, it's like, nope, we have to work independently and unite everyone together and make it all work. And I think it's exciting for everybody at every spectrum of that. No matter if you're Parks and Recreation, if you're sanitation, waste, police, fire, EMS, it's like you're not in silos anymore. We're all working for one event, but they all tend to work independently.
That's cool.
It's very unique.
Kathleen, you're the president of the board of directors of Running USA. Is that right?
I am
What
board
are
president.
Joy? Thank you. What are you seeing in terms of, for a while there was a big discussion around participatory events post-COVID and
Mhm.
like getting participation back up to pre-pandemic levels. And it seems like, so this is kind of twofold question. It seems like the Philadelphia Marathon has done a fantastic job. You're selling out months in advance, and so I guess two questions here. One is, how are other events doing, and how's the state of the sport doing? But then also, what are things that you think have contributed to the Philadelphia Marathon being so successful in getting people out and getting people moving again post pandemic?
Yeah, they're both great questions. I think, when we take a look at the state of the industry where it is, we were expecting this. You have COVID hit, and what happened during COVID is a lot of people took running. You saw people doing marathons in their apartments. You saw people running around the block. Just people that would never take up running had nothing better to do but to go try a marathon. And you just saw people doing all kinds of steps and things that post COVID, now you have this new emergence of runners that are out there that didn't think they were runners, that are interested in, hey, I want to take interest in the sport. You saw a lot of people that were running and burned out that maybe relaxed a little bit, tried to go a little bit longer of a distance. So now you see the surge in the ultra distance where it's like, oh, I'm going to try doing more than just the basic. People really came out of their comfort zone with fitness, and fitness was the one thing that really excelled during COVID, all these virtual events that we had. Well, the virtual events go away. Now people are looking for that community. Running events start to take off. And when you tie that with economic hardships and just stressful times economically, and like in 2008, 2000, we saw this when we had 9/11, 2008, when we saw the market crash. Like every time something precedent happens with our economy or politically, running takes off because it's the least expensive as a stress reducer. So really people take to that. But the boom that we're seeing now, we're seeing it across the entire industry. And it does remind me of the 2008 spike where a lot of people came into running. The sport took off, more events were coming in. And shortly after that is when you started to see it. You had the color runs, and then you ended up with the Ragnar runs, and you ended up with all these different types of runs because it was people were into it. It's like, how do we capture that? What is it that we can do to make people run? And people took to that. Now you're seeing high rocks events starting to happen, that it's weightlifting. So it's interesting to see. I project the bell curve, and this is my Running USA hat with some others in the sport, of like in 2 years, what looks like it happens. I think we're on this trajectory to go up. We're seeing races sell out faster than ever. We're seeing more people in the sport overall. I'm happy to say 5K races are doing well, because 2 years ago, the past two, it was like, okay, economy's tough. Where do I put my money? Well, I'm not really thinking I'm going to go into 5Ks. Plus, a lot of 5Ks disappeared with COVID. Smaller events just disappeared. Larger ones managed to stay intact because they had the dollars and they could do virtual. So we're seeing the surge come back up. Run clubs. I think run clubs, when you talk about where are we going, run clubs are going to turn into their own events. Like you have, these were clubs that were 20 people, 30 people, or 2,000 people. They can make their own 5K happen. But then again, what is the experience? Everybody wants to have a different experience. They want to feel. This is a generation of feelings, whether we like it or not. It's a time where feelings are expressed, feelings are heard, whether it's good or it's bad. People are sharing, and they want it to be known. Like, okay, this is my thought on this. This is what I feel. So when it comes to running, that boom, I do see it going. I see the surge going for about 2 years. I think in 2 years, it's coming out of that COVID. The people who just started running, they got into the sport. A lot of moms stepped out of the sport to have children. Some of the races required you to be vaccinated. Some of the moms were like, I'm not doing that. We saw women drop off. We're seeing it now back to 50-50 again. 2019, we saw women take the lead over men in participating in long distance running. And even shorter distance now. And then we saw it go the opposite post-COVID, as women started we had a pregnancy boom. And we also had a lot of people saying, okay, I'm not going to be told that I need to be vaccinated to run. Rightfully so. Everybody has their, whatever it was. But the women are coming back into the sport. They're coming back into the sport stronger than ever. They're coming back as moms out there running, which we'll have a panel on next month about that, about, moms coming in and what that looks like. So I think that's kind of the surge that we're seeing. And a lot of races are selling out, and they're selling out faster than ever. And the same way, when you take a look at Philadelphia Marathon, to answer that second part, what have we done? One of the things that we did, even when I first started in 2017, is about community engagement. And I think the more you engage the community and you let them know that we're here, we're part of you. And anybody that knows me knows they see me out in the streets, I'm running, I'm talking to running groups. I am a runner myself. It's all about, what does that experience feel like? What does it look like? No matter what your gender, your size, your shape, your pace, your ethnicity, it doesn't matter. You want to be seen. You want to find yourself in that crowd, which is why we started the brand ambassador program. So I think a lot of the success of Philly is just stacking on what makes us relevant. What is our community asking for, not only locally, but globally? And how do we bring people into the mix, even like yourselves, to say, we want to have these touch points. We didn't have pro ambassadors before 2018. We didn't have a brand ambassador program before that. There was a lot of things we didn't have, but every time we're out there looking around and running, it's just having your finger on that pulse and really being in tune. I think that's been the success of Philadelphia, is saying we want to keep evolving. We don't stop just because we sell out. We're stretching ourselves further. I'm horrible at being comfortable. So I'm probably one who's always like, can we go for that? Can we go for that? I don't do easy well. So hence I'm the ultra runner, the Iron Woman, all of those things, because I like a good challenge.
Yeah, well, that's what you need. That's
Amazing.
the mindset you need if you're trying to continue to grow and shape and fine tune an event for such a diverse city and diverse audience. And it just it brings me to another question that was inspired by your comments about your ambassador program. When I think about, like, you said we're a feeling culture right now. This is a feeling generation. And I think one thing that's really important is for people to get an idea before they jump into something. It's an investment to do a big race, financially, time wise, training wise, all of that. What do they anticipate they'll feel like? And feeling welcome is one of the first barriers for people. So seeing different ambassadors from different walks of life, different types of goals reflected and amplified by the event, I think is so smart. Beyond that, what do you, how would you prime the pump for people who care, who want to know, if I do Philly weekend, what will it feel like?
I think when, we're looking at everything from, I always say, it's that first touch point. Hey, I'm on air. I see a banner ad that says Philly Marathon weekend. I click on it. Oh, what does this look like? Do the pictures resonate with me? Does the time of month work with me? What is running? Right away, you have to see yourself. What do the ads look like? Do they feel like, okay, that's talking to me? And I'm going to go into the website. What is the web like? What are the stories? We just redid the website. We do have a new website that just came out. An application. Hold on, I have a cough. I'm in a construction zone and I've got these trucks that just drove by and I think I got puffed with dust. So it's looking at that flow of, okay, I'm interested. I see these ambassadors. Like, we pick brand ambassadors from across the globe, every race and every pace, and a lot of diversity. Because again, it comes back to, why pick Philly? You see yourself there. If you're a solo person, you feel like, the brand ambassador program is, you've got a friend in Philadelphia. I find a brand ambassador. I resonate with them. I'm following them. I'm communicating. I feel like I'm not coming to a city by myself. If I'm a group of people, it's like, oh wow, look at these. This is kind of like a club. A group of people I feel like I can go to. I can do things individually because the city is very easy to navigate by myself, but I still want to be with my running group. So we try to connect them with different running groups, even through the training runs. So you have this first touch point of, I see Philly, I'm going through the website, I'm going to check out the app. Then it's okay, I'm going to travel here, have a hotel, close proximity. It's one of the few cities that you can kind of roll out of bed and get to the race, but you got to give yourself at least an hour. Otherwise, we have really long security lines. Hint, hint. Then you get to the expo and you want to make sure that you can go through the flow. Buying your clothing has been a big thing, having it not gendered, having it for plus sizes. I talk about professional back of the pack. Everybody, every shape and size. It doesn't matter who you are. If you say, I'm a runner, I want you to be like, yep, and I can race in Philly. Because some people don't look like a runner. and others look like a runner and they're not a runner. So it's really that you feel like you're seeing value and appreciate it and you belong. The minute you go through our website to the minute you show up at the expo to the time you hit the tow line, you feel welcomed the entire way and you feel supported the entire way.
I think another thing on that is like, I mean, all of that comes through in the personal experience of the event for
Yes.
me. But I feel like the way you pay attention to operational detail, I mean, a long security line to me is a plus because it means that there's security. There's real security happening, and you're very clear about the timelines of things. I think that that's something important for feeling, being able to relax and have your best day, and to lean into the more, I don't know, softer sides of the running experience is knowing that the details are taken care of. You can rely on this event to do what they say they're going to do, and at least like the best they possibly can. There's not any, there's no lack of care, right? Mistakes can happen anywhere, but like there's no lack of care and intention to take care of those details. And I have found Philly to be an extremely well oiled machine, as far as that side of things goes. So I recommend it to people for that reason too. It's just like, no, this is like a legit event doing all the things. Like, come enjoy it.
We try this year. I try to lower the anxiety level. I think it's reducing that anxiety for somebody at that start line. Like this year with the app, we have a new app that's coming out. We had it last year, but this year we maximized it. We have an AI integration where on the map, you'll be able to see where all the water stops are. So you're going every mile and a half, 2 miles. It's a little bit very different just because sometimes there's construction, you have to move it. But I think if you do your pre-planning and you come in and we give you the tools of here's a map, but now here's, you go on the app and you can see the map. Now you can see where the water station stops, or you can see where the cheer zones are. I know where medical is. Think about how much more that reduces your stress level. So it's even thinking about
Are the
those things.
toilets on there?
The toilets are on there. The toilets are on there.
Good.
I like to make sure that, toilets are unzip tied, clean nightly. I do have,
Asking for a friend.
those things. Yes, they are definitely on there. But it's putting in tools like that. Like we rebuilt the website, our website was kind of clunky. You had to go all over. Now you go to the marathon site, it's everything that you want to know from the marathon. We're going to have a picture of the medal, the shirt, the course, FAQs. You want the half, you go to the half, it's everything is right there. The 8K. Again, it's about that experience of how do I find information. The more I'm informed, the better I can be because I've done all this work. We're talking about training, and today we're talking a little bit about, just behind the scenes on what's going on, but everybody does all this work and you want to make sure, okay, when I get there, how do I reduce my anxiety? How do I show up? How do I perform? And know that, as you're saying, like people care and we're thinking about those details that are going to help someone's performance along the way. Someone could say, why an app? For me, it reduces stress and anxiety. We already have enough of that as runners getting up and hitting that start line. If it's your first marathon or if it's your 50th marathon, no matter what, race day is race day. You're on.
Yeah. That's true. Well, I'll definitely be checking out where the bathrooms are. That was the only place I had stress last year, was like the second half of the race when, because I didn't do my homework in advance to know where they'd be. And if you have to go, you're just like, and is it around this corner? Is it around this corner?
Well, it's definitely
Where
one at
is
every
it?
medical stop, and they should be at the water station stops too, but they're not right next to the water stop because it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
Like, it was like 100 or 200 yards. I'm like, well, who wants to pee where you're taking in water at the same time? Or do
Yeah. That could
something
get
else.
congested. Yeah.
Yeah, so they are in those vicinities. Every medical tent does have one though. So you
Okay.
always know that, okay, you see that, one is there, but they're around the water station stops too. They're just usually prior to it or after. It just depends on where that water station stop is, where we can get the porta potties put down. But when we say that they're near the water, they're a little bit just because, again, we want to be mindful. Water station stops get really congested and crowded. There's also an aroma that the volunteers don't wish to spend, 8 hours standing around. And we do have some
Oh, that's so
volunteers that are out there
considerate.
the entire day.
That's very considerate.
So what are some other tips that we have? So we are at the half marathon training point where everybody might be, everybody will be kicking off. We're going to kick off the Philadelphia half marathon training on September 27th, Saturday, 7 a.m. For those that are looking for a training run, we go up to 14 miles. We'll have water out there, refreshments. You can find that on our Facebook and Instagram page. But for you all, where are you in your training journey, running journey? Lauren, I know you're pacing. Jarrett, is there a competitive edge to you, or is it, a good shakeout run, or I can't divulge that information at this time? You can plead the
There's a
fifth.
little bit of I can't divulge it at this time, but it's not because I'm trying to hide anything. I'm just open-minded to where I can get to. I was out this morning working out with Connor Manson, Casey Klinger, and and these guys training here in Provo. They're quite fit. These guys are getting ready for Chicago, and we had a tempo today. And so, yeah, I keep telling them that I need about every bit of this next 2 months, but I'm training to compete.
Nice.
Nice. I'm preparing myself for being able to be on my feet for 2 hours. So that's the pace group that I'm leading, and that's not something that I don't spend 2 hours on my feet very often. Although I just did in the mountains in Chamonix. We'd be out there for like 5 hours, which was so fun. So I think that was really
It's
good.
incredible over there.
Oh, it's so
Gorgeous.
beautiful. That was a very good way to kick off like the next level of my Philly training. And then today I went out for 6.5 mile run around the river, and I'm just trying to like focus on steadiness, um, and like finding that good zone. It's around 9 minute pace between 9 and 9:10. So I'm just making sure that I know what that feels like so I can do a good job, and that I'm hitting that pace at least twice a week. Um, and then the other days I can have more variability on what I do as far as my pacing goes. And it's still mountain bike season, so I get to use that as my cross training, which I really love.
That's awesome. I'm slacking on my running. With the move, I had a hard time trying to juggle two places, a move, and all of that, and a broken pinky at the same time.
Oh
Uh,
man.
so I think I'm
Dang
Hercules,
it.
and I'm not really Hercules anymore.
Well,
But I say to myself, Hercules, Hercules, yes, you are.
yeah.
And Mother Nature's
Nobody
like,
can be Hercules 100% of the time, not
no,
even
no, no,
Hercules.
not at all. Um, so give us some other tips here. We are having people ask, just about pacing. I try to tell everybody my tip is start the race slower, pick it up, break it down into thirds, give your first, third this, and then kind of looking at that center. And then if you've got enough to kick towards that end. But we have some questions coming in about pacing and how you go about pacing. I might have one mindset, but I want to talk a little bit about the marathon and the half. We have a lot of first timers. I'll say that this year. We had a lot
Mhm.
last year too, which again talks about the running boom and how many people have entered the sport that are now like, I'm ready to take on this marathon challenge. So talk about pacing and just that first time energy for some of them, or some that took a hiatus. We're seeing a lot of people that took a break after COVID and finally are like, you know what? I want to get back into the sport again.
Yeah, I think for people that are like either new to the sport or just coming back, I think that underneath that is a seeking of a positive relationship with the sport. That is, I think, the primary thing to protect. And so I work from there on a race strategy with that group of people. Like, um, how can you create a strategy, a pace goal that is going to set you up best for a positive experience? Because if you have a positive experience, you're going to be more likely to be motivated to continue the relationship, to continue to chip away at your potential and find your other drivers for why you want to do it and explore those nooks and crannies, right? But it all rests on this foundation of a positive relationship with the sport. So I recommend that people begin with a conservative pacing approach if they don't have, if they're not feeling driven by a qualification time or some other thing, to really uh, know that it's totally fine. You don't have to aim for some pace or finish time just because you saw it on the internet or someone, the person that introduced you to running. runs about that much, or the training partner that you've been running around has this goal. Like you don't have to cling on to any of that. So that'd just be my initial thing is like start with something you feel pretty confident you can do, and you can always adjust in the second half of the race. And I know Jared has a lot of really great tips I've heard in the past about pacing and getting the best out of yourself once you're in the race. So I'll happily hand that over.
Well, that's quite a tee up. Lauren, I love how balanced you are in your approach. Professional runners tend to get myopic in how we approach defining success. And your journey that you hear about in your book, Good for a Girl, and just the way that you talk about your relationship with the sport, sort of, I don't know, it's refreshing to and eye-opening to consider, redefining how we approach what a successful performance is. And so it doesn't have to be, again, yeah, it doesn't have to be what it is for somebody else. But I tend to think in terms of just, pacing from a sort of a physiology level or approach. In the half marathon, you really can likely store enough glycogen to get you through the race. And so pacing mistakes tend to be a little bit more forgiving in the half marathon. It's a good opportunity to learn and practice trying to feel consistent and feel good through a race. If you're pushing for a time, it's a good opportunity to have an experience where you can push a little bit, and if you overshoot what's comfortable, again, it's a little more forgiving. In a marathon, I think we really just have to be careful. When you run out of those energy stores, and if we've underfueled, the price can be long and slow and frustrating.
Yeah.
I think of being so one experience that I think of is in the 2016 Olympic trials. There were a number of athletes that were debuting in the marathon. And one of these athletes was my friend Diego Estrada. And he was running with me next to me in the race halfway through. And he goes, "Jared, I feel so good. Can we go? Can we just go?" And I said, "Just wait." And again, mile 15, he's like, "Jared, I still feel so good. Can we go?" And I said, "Just wait. This." And at mile 16, "Jared, can we go? Just wait." And then mile 17 came. There had been a move made in between mile 16 and 17. And by the time I hit mile 17, I was looking around and Diego wasn't there.
Mm.
And he ran a really solid debut attempt in a really hot, tough Olympic trials, but he ended up having to drop out of the race. And I think that's the marathon. The marathon is a hard distance to get right because you can go from feeling so good to feeling so bad. And I don't think it's something to be scared about because you've signed up for a marathon. That's probably the hardest step. You can do this. But I think it's something to be aware of, that when we're in the race and we're following the plan, to follow the plan and to continue to be patient and just wait. And, I think even when you get to mile 18, 19, 20, I think there's a little prudence to saying, just wait. Coach Eystone would always say 20 miles is halfway. And I think that was his way of helping me reframe expectations to not over celebrating my success so far until I'm at least past 20 miles, because that last 10K can be tough. And I think that mentality of just wait can be helpful in a marathon.
I think that's so good. And it's like we can all be prone to grandiosity. And I think a marathon that I totally fell for it in Boston in my second marathon, where I felt like I feel so good. Maybe I can run faster than the pace I've actually trained for. Maybe I actually am like just really special or something, and the rules don't apply to me. And I'll just run based on how I feel. I just feel like that's such a big mistake to be.
Yep.
You can't, how you feel is irrelevant plus or minus, because just like you say, it can go from feeling really good to really bad, and it can also go from feeling really bad to feeling really good or at least fine again, right? And so you may start out feeling bad, and that doesn't mean it will necessarily feel that way the whole time. And so it's just like holding lightly, how do I feel, for maybe the first 20 miles. Maybe we say the first half of the race. Hold lightly how you feel, and know that you've committed to it. You're going to do this thing, and hold on to your why for why you did it in the first place. And I think, like, having low expectations for how it will feel during, and high expectations for how it will feel when you've accomplished it, because I think that accomplishing it will feel, it may not feel good in the first couple seconds, or it may, but when you wake up the next day and your body is sore and you look back at what you did, you will be amazed with yourself. And so, like, that's, I think it's totally fine to get excited about that in advance.
I think it's fantastic to get excited about that. And you're right. And I try to tell everybody hurts the same, whether you're the first place or the last. Everybody's still covering 26.2 miles when it comes to that
Yeah.
marathon. I always feel great until mile 18. And all of a sudden I'm like, where'd that bulldozer come from? Where'd that wall come from? Everything flat. But you're right. And then a lot of times it'll pass. Like you get down to 3 miles and I'm doing a 3 mile run in my head. I'm like, I got 3 down. I know what the last 2 feels like. I put
Hmm.
2 miles to home in my head. And then that last mile is just the last mile. And, everybody takes that in different. Some slow down to take all the pictures. Some just keep running. Some it's a blur. But when you're done, it's no matter what, you're never going to be sad that you finished, no matter what that time is. It's like, if you didn't hit the PR, okay. But the next day you're going to be like, I still did a marathon.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, I mean, you gotta, like, let yourself feel what you feel in the short term. If you had a goal and you didn't quite nail it or whatever, like, don't deny your feelings, but by all means, like, allow yourself to be satisfied after you've processed that.
Speaking
Isn't
of
it
somebody said,
amazing how oh, go yeah, after you,
no, go
Kathleen.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, isn't it amazing that, like, have you ever regretted putting in your best effort in your life? Like, has that, as you look back, are you like, man, I wasted that? Because it's interesting that in the middle of a race or in the middle of something really hard, we have this tendency to sometimes default to this fake idea that it's not worth my best effort today because the result isn't going to be as good as is motivating or whatever, right? And like it happens almost every hard race of my life. I've had to sort of navigate that line of convincing myself that it's worth the best effort despite how hard it is or despite how maybe lackluster it is extrinsically or anything else. But you hit that finish line of a race or of anything, and it's it's always worth the effort. And when I look back on good efforts, I don't regret those. And it's a trick of the mind when we're in the middle of it, but I don't think good efforts are wasted.
I think that's so well said, Jared. It's like it reminds me of, like, we're an unreliable companion in those moments when we're saying, "Do you really want to put this effort in?" And so just having you normalize that people should expect a moment like that. They should
Yeah.
expect to hear that and to just kind of laugh and be like, "Oh, look, hey, congratulations, I'm a human. That's happening to me
We
too."
forget that. And
And
negative
yeah, and
thoughts are
not,
going to come up. Everything of,
yeah.
this
And
doesn't,
like you're a
yeah.
reliable narrator most of the time, just not at mile 18 of a
Right.
marathon. And just like my kids are a completely unreliable narrator of their human experience when they're hungry. Because when they're hungry, they've had the worst day ever. They hate everything. I'm the worst, and I'm just not going to, like, invest in that opinion at that time.
I like that. I like that. Somebody actually asked, have you ever fallen out of love with running? And how do you stay consistent in the sport over the years? I'm going to say I've
I
never fallen out of love with running. I might go through my moments. I would cry if I didn't have running.
I feel like you're gonna cry even imagining it right now. I believe you.
I can't imagine not having running
Yeah,
in my life. I'm like, anything can happen. Everyone's like, do your hips hurt? Do your knees hurt? I'm like, Like, do you ever
yeah,
get tired of running? I'm like, I might get tired of competing at
yeah. I
times,
mean,
but
I
I
have
love
felt
the sport.
betrayed by running, I guess, at times in my life. Like looking back, that seems silly to say, but in the moment, I did. I have. I guess I have fallen on the rocks. I've been on the rocks with running and been like, man, why isn't my body letting me do this? Or that dedicating significant energy to chasing goals and running, questioning the worth of that. And so that can kind of make everything feel a little bit unstable because if I have dedicated this, but then my body breaks down, have I wasted my time? And just like that mid-race voice versus the post-race voice, you can't really it's not a reliable narrator, the one that's talking to you in the midst of the struggle always. So looking back, I can see how those ups and downs were all really super valuable to my human experience and have informed who I am. And I wouldn't like wish injury on someone, but it wasn't for nothing, right? And but yeah, I think what has resulted from times like that for me is more of just like a deeper and, well, broader, I guess I should say, a broader love of running that's less conditional. And now I'm at a place where I love running and I can love running even if that isn't giving me what I want, even if it's not letting me accomplish some specific goal I decided I cared about, that I just love running because because I do. I don't know. Like, why do I love anyone? It's hard to put into words. It's been with me for so long, and I hope I get to do it for all of my life. It's unlikely, but I hope that I do. How
Jared?
about you, Jared?
Yes, I have had hard moments with running for sure. Um, and I think it happens when there's a little too much focus on sort of the extrinsic result validation of maybe a good goal setting process and maybe a bad one, but too much focus on that and not enough on the process. I remember talking with a teammate in college after NCAA nationals when I didn't perform nearly as well as I'd wanted to, and he had had a great race and he was already ready to start talking about the next season and all the things we were going to do. We were on the plane flight home from Terre Haute and he was already planning all we were going to do next year, and I didn't even want to talk about it. I wanted to forget about this race. um, but his energy sort of picked me back up, and as I reconciled as I tried to unpack my own emotions, I realized that I had put the entire season on one race. The whole weight and validation and success story of the season on a 30-minute nationals race.
Hmm.
And I thought that is a giant waste of time. If if this whole season is all about the outcome of a 30-minute race that I have some control over but not all the control over, then I'm misappropriating my emphasis. And there was a lot in that season to enjoy, but I was looking past it because I was only focused on nationals. And it's a lot easier to stay in love with running, and the roller coaster of injury disappointment or success disappointment feels a lot less not as big if we're just sort of living in the moment and taking what we're given and enjoying what's around us and part of the process. And I know it's so much easier to say than it is to live in, but I think that the times when I've fallen out of running, what it's taken to get me back into it is stepping back, going for a run or going for some form of exercise, and then looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself the things that went well about it, the things that I enjoyed about it, and why I'm doing it, and that I have the choice to be doing it, and revalidating that from the building blocks as opposed to from the results or the injuries or things that maybe felt a little out of my control. And anyway, so I don't know if that was too theoretical, but that's where
No,
my
that was
mind is.
so
No,
good. I feel
no.
like that's just so helpful. And what I was thinking about when you were saying that was like, I think that that might be, you say it's easier said than done. And unfortunately, I think it's the thing a lot of people have to learn through trial and error themselves because it can just sound like platitudes, like enjoy the moment and be grateful for the runs. I get it because but it really is true. And I think that that is part of a like rite of passage of a runner is you go through this journey and you stretch yourself for a goal and then you overinvest in the goal and then you have to kind of like do that soul searching and figure out how is this sustainable, what do I actually love about this sport. It wasn't just those 30 minutes, right? Why would I give so much power to that 30-minute race or this however many hour long marathon or half marathon, like, and then the next trick once you've sort of had that like whack across the head is okay, now how do I have gratitude for the daily moments and make sure I'm living in the joy of the thing and have a goal. Because I have
Hmm.
found that I've swung from one side to the other where and not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't think you have to have a goal where you're pushing yourself as a runner at all. But it's just interesting for me to hear you say that and reflect on my own experience that I think there's another level. And I did accomplish this, I think, in the last couple of years of my pro career. I did find that sweet spot of truly living into the day to day of running and the process and had big goals. I mean, I was seventh in the world the year I was doing that the best, right? I managed to do those two things. But not trying to be the best in the world at this current stage of my life, I'm finding it harder. I'm finding it harder to I'm finding it really easy to love the moment and really difficult to also work towards
A goal.
something for me. Yeah.
It's a push pull.
Yeah, if one of our listeners figures out that art, put it as a question, and then we'll just read it as the answer.
That's it. For a recap, we're gonna hold
Community
this little note.
sourcing.
We're gonna caption it.
Can we crowdsource the answer to
That's
this?
it. We're seeking
Yeah.
the answer to this.
Yeah, well, and then it's just a good like just to kind of bring it together is like we don't have to like yes, let's seek the answer, but the seeking is part of what we're doing here as runners. We're always
Absolutely.
kind of it's a small version of life, a little like microcosm of life where we get to do this seeking with this within the safe boundaries of this sport and that we're learning it there and honing it there and we're applying it to our greater life and our work environments, our family environments, our community, right? So it's all like, it's less about do we ever find it, but are we looking? Are we questioning? Are we like really living our lives?
Yeah, that's good. This was a good philosophical one for everyone.
Sorry.
It's good. I mean, when you think about it, you could go through our archives of webinars that we've done, and it's kind of regimented. But when we're still real human beings doing the sport. So at the
Mhm.
same time, you take out, yes, you train professionals and everything else, but it's still human beings. And how does it apply to our daily lives and even post our careers in that sport? Like, what does that look like? And it's like how you evolve, and it's always still going to be there. Just the love stays. It changes and evolves and shifts, and sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, oh, I love this with that. The
Yeah.
combination of how it evolves. So it was an interesting question. I thought it was a good one for the group.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good one. And it's
And if
interesting, like with our varied experiences, even just the three of us, how many ways we have engaged with the sport. And that like at Philly Marathon weekend, like there's room for all of it. There's so many ways to engage and show up um, wherever you are in that journey.
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to give a little news bust of like a certain Alafine Tulamuk will be showing up virtually because she's about to have baby number two.
That's
And then
awesome.
another certain athlete will be out there who might be part of the Dakotas. Will be joining us as well. So, we'll have some special announcements there. But it is interesting. I'm really excited about this year once we get to see everybody and kind of bring the team back again in Philly, and we keep growing the Philly family, of course, too. But everyone's different place of where they are, and get to hear their stories and their backstories. So, I'm
The one
excited
thing we
for.
all have in common, KT, is that all of us are at a place in our running journey where we get a lot, all three of us at least, a lot of joy and Alethine in in bringing our experience to help other people get the most out of their experience.
That's
Like
it.
we're all meeting each other there, and that's what's making us, I think, a really good team.
Yeah. It's an awesome team, and it grows. Like you said, Jared has Paul, and Alfie said, "Bring Zoe," and then we're gonna have a new one to the family, and then we just keep adding different components in there of who's coming. I expect Jude to maybe show up and run one day.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He's doing good. So she's going on cheer squad. I got she can join in too. No problem there at all. But if anybody is looking for some training tips there and training guides, Jared's are still on our website, so definitely take a look there. Amazing coach, as Lauren. So if you have questions for these guys, hit them up on social. You can find them here. Find us race weekend. They're going to be speaking at our seminar series. They're going to be out there on the course running if you're part of the half marathon. You're a little faster you're going with Jared. If you're right around that sweet spot of 2 hours and still looking to crush it, Lauren's going to be out there pacing that group of people. So again, race weekend is November 21st for the expo opening. The half and the 8K take place on Saturday, the 22nd. The full marathon's on the 23rd. We have other things that we're going to be releasing in the next couple of webinars, some more behind the scenes. But you guys aren't already on our website. We do have a new website that's out there. We have a whole AI function just trying to answer some questions a little bit quicker for everyone. We're a small team again. The person behind social little fingers would fall off if we had to answer all the questions. So we're hoping a little incorporation of AI is going to help. The app, I tell everybody, download the Philadelphia Marathon app. It's not ready yet. It's in a beta system, but it will be releasing soon. So we'll keep you updated there. If you're watching this and you haven't received an email from us lately, just with some updates or e-newsletter, reach out to us to make sure your email's still valid. We run into some times where someone's like, I didn't hear anything about the race. And here you switch jobs or you don't know what's happening there. But again, we have the training run September 27th, 7 a.m., Philadelphia Museum of Art Steps. We have that posted on our Facebook page. It's also on our website. So come out there, join us up to 14 miles. We're out there from pretty much 7 a.m. to around 11 a.m., making sure everybody has enough time. You're still keeping that 14 to 16 minute mile pace. We look for it to be a little bit quicker on those days, but that's about it from me. Do you guys have anything else to contribute, add, ask? Until next time.
I don't think so.
Wow. I
This has
can't
been
wait till
great.
next time.
Yeah,
Me
next
too.
time we're gonna have an expanded family on here. So we do have Bart
Great.
coming back, and we'll have Bill, and then Bart and Mark. When I put those names together, I am like so tongue tied. Just talking about the course and
Bark.
yeah, I'm like Mark. I'm like Mark, Bart. I get it, but Mark Sullivan has been running every marathon, so we're doing one with him and Bart. Bart Yasso has been around for a long time, a Philly native up in Bethlehem, PA. So he's part of the family. Bill Rogers. So again, we just keep expanding, but we'll have new people coming on here, and we'll be doing a session just for the ladies, just to talk about women in the sport and moms coming back into the sport, and how do we support moms coming in and what we're doing from a race standpoint, so that the moms out there don't have anxiety coming to the race weekend. So again, we're always looking
Nice.
for those opportunities to educate and inform you all so that you can have the best weekend experience. And I'm excited for the next webinar. This one was fun, having you guys ask me some questions instead of me always firing them off. And again, thank you all for tuning in here today and asking questions of our great pro athletes, and Lauren Fleshman and Jarrett Ward. So again, guys, until next time.
Until next time. Thank you.